Well, good afternoon, everybody. John Hunt here from MarketingPlanGuide.com with another free marketing plan Q&A session. We do this every Monday, 3 o'clock p.m. till 3:30 Central Time, right here at MarketingPlanGuide.com. Of course, you may be watching this on a replay. You can always check out the replays for any of our Q&A programs at MarketingPlanGuide.com/questions. Let me give you a quick overview of the purpose of why we do this, and that is to allow you to ask any questions related to creating your marketing plan. And that's kind of a broad statement there, so we've got all kinds of different ones lined up for today. So the next question, what is the best follow-up strategy? And again, it's another one of those generic questions. But, you know, I like to take a look at these and say, okay, well, let's take a look at this question and dive into principles with it, okay? So when I think about a follow-up strategy, and when I work with companies and say, okay, let's develop a sales process, and part of that sales process is a follow-up strategy, what are some of the elements that are needed? Well, the first piece, or the first step in the follow-up strategy, is the promise of a follow-up. Because a follow-up implies that you've made contact at least once with either a prospect, and I'm assuming it's a prospect, could be a current customer as well. But one thing you always want to do, you've heard the old phrase, never leave a meeting without setting up another meeting. Well, that goes true with follow-up. You always want to take and initiate a promise of follow-up. We'll get back to you, or we'll be sending you, or whatever it is, but promise the follow-up. The second step is to schedule what I call a multi-touch, multimedia sequence. Because quite often in follow-up, one form of follow-up doesn't necessarily work better than the other on a universal basis. You know, some people respond better to email, some people to traditional phone, some to a handwritten note follow-up. Well, I say create a sequence of multi-touch points, which you can then schedule in your marketing calendar portion of your marketing plan to come up on a regular basis, following up with those prospects. And again, I would use multimedia. I would use email follow-up. I would use handwritten note follow-up. I would use a telephone follow-up. And if you have a hard time getting through to people on telephone, make sure you have a pre-scripted or at least an outline bullet-pointed thing of what you're going to say when you do that follow-up. But schedule this sequence. I've seen many companies, worked with many in the past too, that have had this kind of follow-up sequence in place. And you've heard the old phrase, it takes 27 times before someone actually sees something. Well, you may need to have several follow-up points before you even get somebody's attention. So the next point, which is what I call the echo theory, which is every contact has an objective. And what that is when you do schedule these multi-point, multimedia follow-ups, make sure that you have an objective for each one. And when the objective doesn't necessarily always need to be, I want you to buy today. But you may want to inform. You may want to opt them into another offering of yours, make them aware of something. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and I always say have a call to action. Always have a call to action that says, give me a call. I'd love to talk to you about this, or contact me by email. But with that said, I really emphasize this next point, which is never leave the ball in the court of the prospect. So even though you've asked for a commitment back from them, a call back, an email back, or whatever, never leave the ball in that prospect's court, because most people are just going to blow it off and are going to wait till you contact them again. And as the person selling something to someone else, it's key that you are the one who takes charge of the contact sequence. So even though you've said call me or email me, you can always go back in and contact them again, and never really leave it up to them where you've sent the email, well, I'm just waiting for them to call me back. You'll be waiting for a long time. So I think it's really key to make sure that even though you've asked them to contact you, you take the initiative to follow up. And then another point on follow-up step is understanding know, which is N-O, as K-N-O-W. And that is taking, and if someone says no to you, it may not mean they are not interested in a negative way. They may just not know all the information they need to make an informed buying decision. So whenever you hear someone say no, ask probing questions in that follow-up to find out what it is that they are seeking or needing in order to take and get a little bit more information. Unless, of course, they slam the phone on you and say, don't ever call me again. That's a pretty good idea not to do it, although I do have a story where I was working with a sales team once, and one of the salespeople called a client. A prospect said, hey, are you interested? And the guy started swearing at him and just hung up the phone on him. Well, then about 6 months later, he just followed up on that guy again, and boy, they go, oh, hey, yeah, come on in. So you never know if someone's having a bad day or not when you touch them on that particular follow-up. Again, another reason to have a follow-up sequence. So that's kind of the strategy of a follow-up. Again, kind of a more principled and broad answer to a broader question. That's it for today. It's John Hunt from marketingplanguide.com saying so long until next Monday.